Okay, I've got kind of a dark scenario for you. I saw an interview recently. God, I'm trying to remember who it was that was being. It was a couple of never Trumper, Republicans being interviewed. I think it was by Chris. No, it was Mehdi Hassan from Zateo. He was interviewing a couple of these Republican guys, and they painted a scenario, a Civil War scenario, that not only does it seem plausible, it very well could happen, and it is scary. The scenario that they put forward was that, let's just say that Maryland, being a blue state, being represented by a blue governor, and Virginia is a red state, although, not always a red state, but right now Youngkin is their governor and he is a Republican. But let's say that the Maryland, the blue state, does not want to go along with Donald Trump's, immigration policy, wants to make it a sanctuary state or something like that. And Donald Trump could very well call the National Guard or reach out to Youngkin and get him to call up the National Guard of Virginia to go invade Maryland. This very, it smacks of, 1861, South Carolina, beginning of the Civil War type shit. And what happens in that standoff where you have one National Guard facing another National Guard? Back during the Civil Rights days, they were integrating the schools in the South. The South did not want that, and I believe I can't remember the name of the governor, but we've all seen that video of the half a dozen black students that were being protected walking into a school, and the governor calls the National Guard, and then our president Eisenhower, who was a Republican, he said, bullshit, man, we're integrating the school, you are integrating this damn school. And he calls up the military to be protection for these students against the governor and the National Guard. Now, luckily for us, the government, the federal government, was on the right side of history at that point, ending segregation and civil rights. But we're on the other side of that coin now, where we have a federal government that does not believe in civil rights, doesn't believe in due process, and believes that we should be throwing out every brown person with a Spanish accent in this country. So what happens in that scenario? Well, I did a little bit more thinking on it. And with all of the tumult and the turmoil that's going on at the moment, I started thinking about what could happen. Now, this is just speculation on my part, but so the stock market collapses. That's definitely not very far-fetched. I mean, we're kind of looking at that right now. So millions of people lose their jobs. The tariffs will raise the cost of consumer goods, your food and what have you. That goes up. Rents are rising as we speak. And with the way the tariffs are going, we could... The world currency at the moment is the US dollar. One of the reasons why we have such power on the planet is the fact that our currency is the world currency. It really makes a big deal. That's part of our soft power. Hard power, big bombs, weapons, our big ass military. Soft power has got a lot to do with the fact that we did some good in some poorer nations. We went over, loyalty from them from that. But the fact that our currency is the world currency is a big fucking deal. And you start not just alienating our enemies, but alienating our allies. How long before those people start looking to other countries like China, who is coming up in the world? They've been coming up in the world, but we are kind of helping the speed run into China being the one superpower on the planet, you know. But by the way, the tariffs hitting nearly every country on the planet except Russia for some reason. Sorry, I digress. But so you've got stock market collapse, people losing their jobs, cost of goods going up due to tariffs, global collapse, the dollar ceases to be the world currency. We don't have any more allies. Then people hit the streets. Americans who have had enough. They're fed up. They're starving. They don't have any other recourse. They hit the streets. Then Donald Trump invokes the Insurrection Act, brings military onto our soil against American citizens. I mean, it's supposed to be illegal, posse comitatus. It's supposed to not be, a president is not allowed to do this. Even though Donald Trump tried to do it in his first term during the Black Lives Matter protest, Mark Esper, his Department of Defense head, said, no, Mr. President, we cannot use the military to shoot protesters. But this time around, he doesn't have a Mark Esper. He doesn't have a General Milley to tell him no. He just surrounded himself with nothing but sycophantic losers, billionaires, and Fox News hosts. Do you think that Pete Hegseth is going to tell him no? And that leads me to my next thing. There is, on January 20th, when he took office, he commissioned Pete Hegseth and, what's her name? Tulsi Gabbard, to write up a report on whether or not he should invoke the Insurrection Act. He says, I want this report in 90 days, which is April 20th. Kind of funny, 420. But that's the day when they're supposed to hand him a report on whether or not he should invoke the Insurrection Act. The first term he wanted to do it. So obviously he wants to do it. And he hired a couple of ass kissers that are going to do what he wants to do anyway. So let's say that they bring him a report that says, yes, Mr. President, you should do it. He's going to be like, awesome, let's get on it. Now he's going to say that he needs to do it to protect us from the illegal invaders that are coming across our border and they're bringing fentanyl. Dude, we make fentanyl here. My mother was just in the hospital a couple of years ago, and they were giving her fentanyl for the pain. That shit didn't come from Mexico. It didn't come from Canada. It sure shit didn't come from China. That came from here. We make it here. So this, it's coming across the border shit, and that's the reason why we need to invoke the Insurrection Act, because we're at war with immigrants and fentanyl. It's just a bullshit excuse because he wants to consolidate more power. The tariff thing is to consolidate power. Firing of all the generals and all of the JAG lawyers in the military and surrounding himself with military officials that are loyal to him. That is consolidating power. You know, cutting out all of the social safety net for us is him consolidating power. He wants people to come bend the knee and beg to him because he wants to be the mad king and he wants everybody to come and kiss his ass. He doesn't have enough ass to kiss at this point. So when he invokes the Insurrection Act, he's going to make protesting illegal. By the way, First Amendment, freedom of speech, and freedom of assembly and protest. You know, Republican Party, the party of freedom of speech, the party of family values, the party of the Constitution. Where are you at, man? Where are you? I know exactly where you are. You are fucking somewhere between his left and right cheek, kissing that ass. You did not give one solitary fuck about the First Amendment. You were just using that to just beat on leftists anytime they said, we don't want to hear your bullshit. Freedom of speech, freedom of speech. That sycophantic, ass-kissing bullshit is going to have the military marching down the street with a big old banner of Donald Trump hanging off the side of the Empire State Building and tanks rolling down the street, shooting protesters and arresting fools. We are in for a very rude awakening. I was walking down the street today, and I saw some people just, they had like smiles on their faces, and they seemed to be, enjoying the day. The weather was pretty decent, and I'm looking at them and I'm like, you guys don't know what's coming. And I'm not 100% sure that this is going to happen, but you tell me, when's the last time Trump was offered some power and he didn't take it? Anyway, that's the show for the day. I hope you guys have a good weekend, despite all of my scary, horrible news. Try to enjoy, by the way, tomorrow is April 5th. That's a big protest day. These videos will be coming out tomorrow morning. But it's the 50-51 protest. That's 50 states, 50 protests in one day. That's tomorrow. I will be out on the street here in the city. And if you guys are doing that, please, stay connected, get out there and do your part. Show this country that we have got the people. They might have the money and the power, but we have got the people. And it is time for us to stand up and show what power we do have. So if you're going out to protest tomorrow, awesome. I'm glad you're doing it. Thank you so much. Be safe out there, and try to have some fun when you can. All right, I will talk to you next time. You guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye-bye.